Welcome back to Open Line, talking about should you be able to run a business out of your home. There's a lawsuit that has been filed by Keith Diggs with the Institute for Justice and Brandon Busek with the Beacon Center of Tennessee against Metro because Metro currently does not allow businesses to operate out of their home. Businesses like a hairdresser or a recording studio, those kinds of things. So interested in hearing from you guys. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Wayne. Hello, Wayne. Wayne, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, Wayne. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the time. I used to live in 5 Points. I grew up there, and we called the Metro Codes Department the Busy Bees because they're always riding up and down looking for something they can sting you with. So I'm thinking, what does Metro Codes have to do with regulating a person when they have, no matter what they do, when they own their own property? You know, they can come in and tell you how to build it and how to, you know, how to make it look.
Right.
They're telling you what you can't. I mean, we don't live in Cuba. So I'm just wondering what's Metro Codes got to do with it, and if you let them regulate it, God help us.
Okay. So he's asking what does Metro Codes have to do with it? Well, I would say they're trying to, again, maintain the integrity of neighborhoods and the laws that are on the books.
Well, they enforce the law, but Wayne raises an interesting point, which is that Codes decides who gets in trouble and who doesn't. There's record of people on the Metro Council and in the Codes Department itself talking about how they don't go after these home businesses unless someone calls in a complaint, which we saw on the last call can work a really arbitrary effect on a home-based business. It basically depends on how grouchy your neighbor is.
Mm-hmm. But I tell you, we definitely don't live in Cuba, because in Cuba, that home business is one of the few exceptions to the communist regime. And if you ever meet people who have traveled to Cuba, one of the things they'll tell you is that going and eating in a home kitchen is one of the rare bright spots of the free market economy in an otherwise state-controlled system.
Wow, so he walked right into that. So you're ready with the Cuba thing. That's amazing. All right, so let's see here. We have Trisha Ann Snyder. She says, I'm starting a business. This is on Facebook. Starting a business, and it will be from my home. There's not enough profit for me to rent an office, and she goes on from there. Why are they wanting to stop me from doing that? This is probably something you all hear a lot.
Yeah, I will say, like, I mean, we're hearing story after story just in the short time we've been here of different types of entrepreneurs, all of whom can only make a go of it if they're allowed to work out of their own home. So this is not just something that affects Lidge and Pat. It actually affects a sizable slice of Nashville's population. I mean, the bottom line is not everybody can afford office space and to grind it out through traffic. More and more people need to be able to work from home to make their ends meet. And as the economy changes and fundamentally shifts, that more and more people are going to be making that transition as they enter into what we call the gig economy. And it sounds like she's one of those people, but you know, Nashville needs to adapt its models to allow for the new economy. We're seeing tremendous economic growth here, but we've got to be prepared with the future or we'll strangle the goose that lays a golden egg.
Okay, let's go to Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Mine is kind of sad, but most businesses started from the home. You know, how businesses started up. But my question is about your lawsuit is, what about the people that's doing their home business flipping houses in Nashville? They got their TV show, they live in Nashville, and they're working out of their houses. How come Nashville stopped them from working from their house?
People flipping houses, is that your question? Okay. I don't see how that applies, but maybe do you see people flipping houses? That's more commercial. So that's what we're talking about are people that work out of their home. It is their primary base, and they would have customers that would come to their home.
Exactly.
And that's where I think it gets a little concerning for some. But you're saying there are daycares that are allowed to operate, and they put a limit on the number. Refresh us on that again.
Up to 12 per day.
So 12 per day. So if it's more than 12. If you're doing hair cutting and you have more than 12, are you saying that would not be appropriate?
Yeah, we're not asking for that. And Pat's not interested in cutting more than 12. Part of the reason she wants to work from her home is so she can work a more flexible schedule with fewer clients.
Let's go to Melvin. Hello, Melvin.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Great. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call here. I just got one question to ask. If you're working out of your home and
and you working out of your home and you living in a neighborhood, say while you paying, you know, how are you going to control that parking?
So you're worried about the parking?
How are you going to control the parking if you're running a business out of your house? How can you control the parking?
All right, let's ask that.
Well, again, it depends on the business, and Nashville has parking laws that it can enforce. If you look at both of our clients, Lidge and Pat, they accommodate all of their clients in their driveway. They don't cause any parking on the street.
Yeah, I think it's easy. It's just a matter of enforcing the existing parking laws. You have to provide sufficient parking such that people don't park on the streets.
And if they do park on the street, what happens?
Then they're in violation of the parking laws, and you enforce that.
And you enforce that. Okay, I think that would be, I guess, one of the big concerns people might have.
Sure.
You know, here's my neighborhood. There's going to be a business. There's going to be less parking. Parking in some neighborhoods is already at a premium. That might be the concern.
Yeah, you don't need to ban a whole swath of business into the concern that some people are going to abuse the parking privileges. I mean, to give an example, hey, we all love football here in SEC country. If your neighborhood's anything like mine, on a Saturday, the streets are crammed with people watching games and enjoying tailgate parties. Now, some of those people are not going to park in parking pads. They're going to park on the streets. We're not going to ban football tailgating in SEC country. What you do is if there's serial violators, you just cite those people and tell them you've got to obey parking laws. But we're not going to ban a whole good thing for a lot of people just on the basis of one people who are abusing it.
Let's go to Forrest. Hello, Forrest.
Yep.
You're right ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay, well, anybody that's actually filed a Form 8829 expense business use of your home tax form, then they're legitimately running businesses out of their home. And that's a federal, that's a federal thing. Okay, the federal government allows you to run businesses out of your home. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a Form 8829. So the point being, everybody should be able to run a business out of their home. That's a federal law. That's a right to every person in the United States. Now, the only caveat I could see to that is if there is zoning problems, and that needs to be addressed. So if it's a recording studio and somebody's just recording, home business recording stuff, film and TV stuff, that shouldn't be a problem. If somebody's, wanting to put a big grocery store or something in their house, then that's going to be a problem. But
right.
This is a federal law that everybody can run a business out of their home. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an IRS 8829 form.
Form 8829. We haven't talked a lot about that on Open Line. But, all right, so he's saying this is a federal, you're allowed to do this federally. I guess Metro has a more restrictive law.
Well, I won't get into federal tax law here, but I think they do recognize a valid point, which is that people have been using their homes to operate businesses for centuries. I mean, this is really nothing new here. It's really just during the last 50 years or so that there became this idea that people would have to commute far away from their homes. But especially with the rise of the sharing economy, we're seeing that's just not the case all the time anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not just home businesses, but I mean, home studios in Nashville. I mean, that is a specifically Nashville thing. I mean, anybody in the music industry can regale you with tales about how some of the greatest, most legendary albums in country music history were recorded at home studios. You drive up and down Music Row, you're struck by how many of these studios were originally residences. You can tell from their original character and structure. Cowboy Jack Studio, where Johnny Cash used to play, that is in a residential neighborhood near Belmont. I mean, the outlaw music was said to be born at so-called Hillbilly Central, which was an apartment complex near off 12. Now, I like outlaw music as much as anybody, but this has gotten out of hand when we're calling music studios in residential neighborhoods and turning people like Lidge and Pat into outlaws.
So here on Facebook, Trisha Ann Snyder says, I actually live in Smyrna. So is this only a Nashville issue or is it a Tennessee issue?
The law is just Nashville and Davidson County.
And do you know about, do you know about the rest of the state?
I looked at the other major cities in Tennessee, so Knoxville, Chattanooga, Memphis, and they all allow at least one customer a day in most instances.
Okay, so it is primarily a Nashville thing. In Smyrna, you're probably okay, but check. Check with what? Codes? Check with somebody in Smyrna.
Yeah, I think actually Pat actually even had the state cosmetology board come and inspect her studio, and they told her she was in the clear. So the state was okay with it, as well as the caller alluded to, the feds. It just was Nashville that told her that what she was doing was wrong.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. If you're on the line, hold on. We will get to your call. If you want to call in, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.